Stay with us, this gets deeper. Did you know that for a brief period in the 19th century, ketchup was marketed as a medicine? That's right, people believed it could cure everything from indigestion to jaundice. Today, we're diving into a treasure trove of fascinating historical facts that you probably never learned in school. Get ready to have your mind blown. Our first question: which ancient civilization used urine as mouthwash? Surprisingly, it was the Romans. They believed that the ammonia in urine helped to whiten teeth and disinfect the mouth. Archaeologists have even found evidence of this practice. Moving on, here's another head-scratcher. What was the Great Emu War? Believe it or not, it was a real military operation in Australia in 1932. Farmers were struggling with massive numbers of emus destroying their crops, so the government sent in soldiers armed with machine guns. The war, however, was largely unsuccessful, as the emus proved to be incredibly difficult targets. Our next trivia bit involves royalty. Which queen owned more than 7,000 dogs during her lifetime? That title belongs to Queen Elizabeth I of England. Although technically, it was a mix of breeds and she had many favorites. She encouraged dog breeding and was a real dog enthusiast. Ever heard of, but here's what they never wanted you to know: the dancing plague of 1518? This bizarre event occurred in Strasbourg, France, where hundreds of people uncontrollably danced for days. Some even danced until they died. The cause of this strange phenomenon remains a mystery, but theories range from mass hysteria to food poisoning. Let's switch gears to inventions. What everyday item was originally invented as wallpaper cleaner? That would be Play-Doh. It was only later that it was repurposed as a children's toy. Who knew? Here's a culinary curiosity. What was the main ingredient in Worcestershire sauce? Fermented anchovies. A very unexpected component of a very popular sauce. Now, for Stay With Us, this gets deeper. A slightly darker fact. In medieval Europe, what was a common method for testing whether someone was a witch? They were often tied up and thrown into water. If they floated, they were deemed a witch. If they sank and drowned, well, they were innocent but also dead. A truly terrible system. Here's a more light-hearted question. What was the original name for the search engine Google? It was Backrub. Fortunately, they changed it to something a little more catchy. Time for some architectural trivia. What famous monument was originally intended to be a temporary structure? The Eiffel Tower in Paris. It was only meant to stand for 20 years after the 1889 World's Fair, but it became so popular that it was allowed to stay. Moving on to a medical oddity. What was trepanning? It was an ancient surgical procedure that involved drilling a hole in the skull. It was believed to cure a variety of ailments, from headaches to mental disorders. The practice dates back thousands of years and is still performed in some cultures today. Now, for a strange royal practice. What unusual item did some European monarchs keep as pets? Fleas. Yes, believe it or not, monarchs in the 16th and 17th centuries sometimes kept fleas in small cages or wore them in lockets, believing it was fashionable. Here's another curious fact. What was the War of the Bucket? It was a real conflict between the Italian city-states of Modena and Bologna in 1325. The war was supposedly sparked by the theft of a bucket. Now, for the final trivia question. What was the shortest war in history? The Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896, which lasted only 38 minutes. Zanzibar surrendered shortly after the British Royal Navy began bombarding the palace. So how many of these facts did you already know? Which one surprised you the most? Subscribe to Punna Afrik for more African history and wealth wisdom. Follow for more untold African stories.